IRS officer. He has led several reforms in DG, shipping including introduction of 35 e-governance modules, complete revamp of maritime training, transparency in license and approval process, revamping of old acts, etc. He leads Indian delegations in International Maritime Organization and contact group on piracy off the coast of Somalia. Over to you, sir.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Let me begin with congratulating Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade for taking this initiative and starting this dialogue on quality and transparency and productivity in all matters of shipping. Shipping in itself sounds to be a very small industry, but when we talk of shipping, it has so many subgroups within itself that talking of quality and productivity in each of these subgroups would take days or at least weeks for us to pinpoint as to what we need to do in days to come. As you just mentioned, India is a formidable maritime nation. If we see the IMO's classification of the countries representing different interests in international maritime community, India, as you mentioned, is ranked 16th in terms of ownership of tonnage. But the second criteria of representation in IMO Council is the interest in maritime trade. And when we see our interest in maritime trade, then with our large coastline, a huge Indian tonnage, the number of Indian seafarers, the number of our major and minor ports, our shipbuilding, ship repair capabilities, the number of maritime training institutes, recruitment agencies, ship management companies, ship finance, ship insurance, our IRS, which is one of the most recognized organization of the world. I think in terms of our interest in maritime trade, even if we don't count our search and rescue area, SAR area, which is perhaps one of the biggest SAR areas in the world, we do qualify as one of the biggest maritime nations in terms of our interest in maritime trade. And the third group that represents diversity, representation of small island states, least developed states, we can boast of about 1,000 islands of ours, which needs to be protected from various vagaries of maritime trade and transport. So we represent a wide segment of maritime interest. And we can proudly say that we represent almost each and every segment of the world in our country itself. I would largely like to segregate shipping industry into shipping itself, seafaring, and in seafaring we have two segments. Seafarers training and seafarers employment. We have shipbuilding, ship repair, port operations. And when we talk of all these industry within industry, we would struggle a little bit to define the measurement of quality and the measurement of productivity in all these sub-industries within our overarching shipping industry. What would be the measurement of quality for shipping? Yes, we have a number of IMO regulations which regulate the minimum or the minimum standards that shipping should maintain. But these are the minimum standards, and achieving minimum standard, I can hear a lot of disturbance, and it is but these are, as we all know, the minimum standards, and no business now run by achieving minimum standards of quality, be it shipping, training, employment, whatever. So what have we done to go beyond the minimum standards of quality that is prescribed by the International Maritime Organization? I think this is the time when we start thinking, debating, and deliberating on those issues. I understand that we have our own quality standards in the country, but whether these quality standards are sufficient to measure the quality in terms of achieving the world ranking that we intend to achieve in maritime sector is something that we need to debate and deliberate. IMO does not talk a lot about productivity. It does give you the standards that you need to maintain in terms of safety, in terms of security, in terms of environment protection. But as I said, maintaining these basic standards does not make you the best or the most productive nation in the country. And it is time that we start measuring productivity also. Some of the sectors, it is very easy. It is easy to maintain or measure productivity in terms of shipping. It is also easy to measure productivity in maybe shipbuilding or ship recycling. But there are other segments where a lot of input would be needed to identify measures of productivity. Some of the efforts that were made, especially in terms of measuring productivity of maritime training, in terms of a comprehensive inspection program, have not been as successful as we thought they would be. Similarly, measuring productivity and efficiency in maritime employment would be a Herculean task, but these are the jobs that we need to take head on if we don't want to be branded as one of the worst in the world, because others are progressing quite fast and they are ready to catch up with our standards in near future only. So it is for us to maintain the quality standards and the productivity standards that we have maintained, maybe not deliberately, but just by focusing on these areas of quality, we have managed to stay afloat so far. But if we have to maintain these standards in times to come, we will have to come with a framework, quality and productivity framework, which can be followed by each and every segment in our industry. Each of these segments are facing their own challenges. Shipping has the challenge of losing market share. It has a challenge of aging fleet, and it has a challenge of being in grey list in some of the important MOUs of the world. Seafaring has a very unique challenge in the sense that we are one of the best in the world, but then we want to increase our number and we also want to increase our quality. Now, how do we increase both quantity and quality at the same time is a challenge. It's a unique challenge, but a happy challenge for us to face. And this is an important segment where we would like to concentrate to set benchmarks that has not been achieved by anyone else in the world, so that we maintain our unique supreme position, and yet we increase the numbers. The target set by the minister is double from the numbers that we have today by 2030. And that can be done only when we make ourselves completely invincible in terms of quality, and also increase our quantity at the same time. Shipbuilding is one of the most difficult parts so far as India is concerned. It has lost a lot of its China, Korea, and Japan. It also has to compete with a neighbor called Colombo. It has to reduce its cost by about 20%. It has to improve its per capita productivity and improve quality at the same time. And they can do it only when they draw strength from other industries who can contribute to shipbuilding and form a shipbuilding cluster. Shipping repairs also has similar problems as that of shipbuilding. In terms of port operations, you being the ship owners, ship operators, you know the problems in our ports better than anyone else. Though our turnaround time has improved over a period of time, yet we fail in terms of marketing. We fail in terms of our size, economies of scale, and of course, we fail at times in terms of our efficiency. We have highlighted a lot of the issues, and we have tried to find problems in e-governance, insofar as improving our efficiency and productivity is concerned. But not all problems can be solved only through e-governance. But e-governance has been a major tool that has seen a turnaround in many of our sectors or subsectors in shipping. And I think in days to come, we will have to modernize again our processes and make our e-governance systems much better, processing faster, and more transparent. These are the thoughts that I had for you for this session, and I'm hopeful that after today's deliberations, we will find answer to many of the questions that we face here as an industry. So thank you very much, and again, all the best to the organizers.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing the opening remarks with us and setting the tone and context for the deliberation. Now I request Mr. Anil Devli to take over from here as the session's moderator. He is a lawyer by training. Mr. Anil Devli is an active member of the Indian Maritime Fraternity. He has been involved with the Indian shipping industry for over 20 years. He is currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Indian National Ship Owners Association. He has varied experience in the business of ship owning and operations, in addition to his experience in pursuing policies for the growth of Indian shipping industry. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mukherjee. DG sir, good afternoon. Good afternoon, my panel colleagues and all of those who are joined us on this webinar. Welcome to this webinar of the DPIIT-driven Udyog Manthan for shipping and the shipping industry. As you can see, we have got some very well-established and well-known figures. And as the DG set the tone, we are quite a large industry in that sense. And we hope that we would be able to cover all, if not all, at least a major portion of the segment that are important for us in order to make shipping an important sector in the champion sector, as the FM described it the other day, one of the champion sectors for India. Before I move forward, while Ms. Mukherjee read out about our DG, I think it would be completely unfair on my part to not make a mention, and he doesn't write this in his own CV, so we must say this, that the role that the DG and his team played during these 9 or 10 months during the COVID crisis, that was the one single reason why ships continue to call, seafarers continue to move, and consequently cargo continue to move. And this is something that we all must be thankful to the DG and his team. So without any more ado, I move on quickly to the next speaker. The next speaker, or perhaps the first speaker after the DG, is Captain Sandeep Mehta. Most of you know Captain Sandeep Mehta. He has more than 4 decades of experience in this industry, with considerable expertise in various aspects of shipping, logistics, infrastructure, and of course ports. After working and playing a leading role in the container shipping industry, Captain Mehta ventured into the then nascent private port industry in India, and he joined Adani Group as the president and CEO of Mundra Port and SEZ. Captain Mehta is a member of the prestigious Institute of the Chartered Shipbrokers, London, and also the Company of Master Mariners, as well as being a loss assessor and a surveyor, something he has never had to do because loss never comes his way. His employers are always looking at profit. Over to you, Sandeep. Sandeep, you need to unmute yourself if you're speaking.
So I think he has trouble connecting with the network. Sir, you are also on mute.
Yeah, okay. So we'll come back to Sandeep, and I think I will ask Captain Deepak Tiwari to come.
I am having.
Yes, Sandeep. You seem to be having some problem. Yes.
Because I'm at the airport.
Sandeep, you're coming on and off.
Yeah, I am okay now. Thank you so much. I'm actually at the airport, so sorry about what's happening. To change some flights.
Go ahead.
But thanks for the. So can I just go into the lounge?
Mr. Sandeep, if you could, Captain Sandeep, if you could just switch off your video, probably the audio will be better.
10 minutes time. Will that be okay? I'll just connect.
From what I understand, you're saying you'll come back later.
To the lounge, just at the.
Yeah, okay. You come back later. Meanwhile,
just connect into the lounge. Yeah, okay. Sure. I'll connect in 10 minutes, please.
Yeah, sure. So let me then come back to Captain Deepak Tiwari. Captain Tiwari is currently the MD of MSC India. Before joining MSC, he was with the Shipping Corporation of India, which has been the breeding ground for quality shipping people, not just fleet, but people too. And he was last there as the general manager of the container division. For the past 10 years, Captain Deepak Tiwari has been unanimously elected as chairman of the CSLA, which is an association that represents the container shipping lines operating in India. He has also been closely involved with the Government of India, various ministries and departments, and assists in the framing of maritime and logistics policy in India. Over to you, Captain Tiwari.
Thank Thank you very much, Anil. Thank you for the introduction. Mr. Amitabh Kumar, very good afternoon to you, sir. I think I echo what Anil Devli has very clearly mentioned of the fantastic work and yeoman service that the DG Shipping's office and yourself have done for the shipping industry to keep the export and import trade of India moving during the course of the COVID pandemic of 2020, when the biggest challenges were faced. And we in fact thank you very much for that intervention from DG Shipping in all aspects pertaining to keeping the ships going and to keep the cargo flow on and keeping the ports and the customs and all the government agencies as well who have actually contributed to this very large effort. I'd like to thank the Udyog Manthan team for inviting me here today. And with that, very, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As far as the challenges and opportunities in quality and productivity, what I am going to touch is of basically of the container industry and container shipping, and also of the specifically of the export and import trade. And here what we find is that the quality and productivity norms are really not set in any manner whatsoever. It is a very haphazard situation that we have as far as the exempt trade is concerned per se. So basically, I'll just put into perspective certain aspects. And my main idea today is to focus on the importer and exporters of India who actually own the cargo. And according to me and my thinking, I feel that if we have to promote quality and productivity, it is the owners of the cargo who actually need to be the leaders in promoting this quality and productivity as far as the container shipping is concerned in India. So, because they are the owners of the supply chain, it is their cargo that moves. So they have to take ownership for the quality and productivity and ensure that they drive it in all aspects of the process. To give you a perspective on the current scenario as far as the exempt domain in India is concerned, the exempt trade of containerized cargo is around 13 million TEUs annually as on date. And this figure, 9 million is of these TEUs go to the port, all 13 move through gateway ports, but 9 million are cleared, custom cleared in the ports and then taken to the various factories or the consumption areas. And about 4 million actually are moved intermodal through road or rail transport, or a combination of road and rail transport to the respective importers, and vice versa for the exporters. And out of this entire exempt trade, as far as containers are concerned, 50% of India's export and import is done by the micro, small, medium enterprises of India. That is the MSMEs. And the balance is by the large manufacturers, industries, agricultural exporters and importers. So please keep this in mind when I'm talking. So about nearly 79% of exporters and importers in a survey that was done do not have qualified supply chain and logistic professionals in their employ, which is a very large number. And this is because they want to probably cut costs and do not feel that logistics and supply chain has any importance in their business, or do not give the due importance to logistics and supply chain. So I also wish to put something in everyone's mind, that for every mistake that is made in a document for export or import, it takes double the manpower and double the time to correct it. You see, the time taken to create that document, it takes twice that time to correct the document if there is a mistake. So the question here is that we do have to ensure that it is first time correct. This is where we have to get to. Another aspect which came out in one of the surveys was that 95% of India's exporters and importers, over 95%, actually outsource their logistics, custom clearance, supply chain, and shipping. That this is a very major number. So they actually outsource it. Now, when they outsource it, the feeling is that I have given a contract to ABC company or XYZ company. So my job as far as the export part or the import part is done, dusted, and is over. There is no vendor management or quality control that is done by the exporters and importers, or even if it is done, it is minimal. It is absolutely minimal. Now, outsourcing is a good decision. I'm not saying that outsourcing is a bad decision. Outsourcing is a fantastic decision because you can employ professionals through this as a vendor who will actually do the complete logistics and supply chain for you. But the question here is, it starts from the beginning. The due diligence to select a vendor is not done. Majority of the time, due diligence is not done. And most of this is in the MSME sectors. And what happens is that they select a vendor through emotion and not out of professional or technical expertise or qualifications. It's more on emotion that, okay, he's a relative of mine, or he knows my family for so many years. We've done business together for so many years. But there is no vendor management. There is no vendor qualification. There is no technical evaluation for the vendor. Price as well is negotiated as a common negotiation. So the issue is that when you're outsourcing, the first thing we have to do is the due diligence to select the right vendor who is technically qualified, who is professional. They have a team of professionals who can do the documentation for you. They choose the correct mode of transport and will ensure that your supply chains run. That is the first aspect, which we find is missing majority of the time. The second aspect that is missing is that when choosing a vendor, although you want to have a single window facility, you end up with at least 3 or 4 different types of vendors. So in the entire process of manufacturing, of packaging, of labeling, of transportation, warehousing, packing, unpacking of cargo into and out from a container, securing of cargo in a container, I mean, these are extremely important quality points, basically for the safety and security of the cargo through its transport journey. Companies do not have basic KPIs in place to monitor all these aspects, to monitor scheduling, to monitor whether the cargo, where is the cargo, when is it reaching, how is it reaching, have my vendors chosen the correct transport mode? Have they chosen the correct transport or shipping vendor themselves? And all these aspects affect the quality and productivity. And it also has an adverse effect on the cargo safety per se.
9 minutes done, Captain.
Yeah, okay. Just give me two more minutes. Basically, another aspect that is there is the quality. When I'm talking about quality, I'm talking about the interpretation of letters of credit and the requirements that the letter of credit contain, so that the shipping documents can mirror the aspects of the letter of credit. Now, a lot of times we find that shipping documents are not commensurate with letters of credit. Communication with the logistics service providers. This is another aspect of quality. Documentation, customs clearance, sharing of correct description of goods, hazardous cargo, conformity with the International Maritime Cargo Carriage of Dangerous Goods, insurance for goods. We had an incident in 2010 in Bombay Harbor where a ship sank with cargo on board. You will not believe that 36% of the containers that were loaded on board the ship were not insured. So, what I would suggest at the end of my few minutes that I have, I can go on and on this one, is that the Quality Council of India should actually create handbooks, do knowledge seminars, basically for driving the owners of cargo, that is the exporters and importers, to actually instill quality in their basic job functions and quality in their vendors, and do a proper quality and productivity check of their vendor management. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Captain Tiwari. I can see that Sandeep is back with us. So without any delay, Sandeep, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anil. I'm sorry about the slight problem that I had encountered on the getting the 4G working, but now it's there. So what I like to mention is, since I'm from the port sector, I think what we are looking forward to is India and having really the best in terms of class of container ports, and I think we are getting there. Anil, the key issues that I have seen is that we have a very resilient port industry here, especially now with the private ports competing effectively, and we are gaining in terms of global recognition that our ports are running very well. We run 2 joint ventures with the mega carriers. One is with MSC and with CMA, and comparing it with their other terminals also, we are finding a highly consistent level of performance. I have Captain Tiwari there who will possibly also share the same views. We are consistently able to turn around ships very quickly. Port congestion, though, during this period of COVID, we have dealt with it very effectively. I think ours was one of the ports which took a lot of the additional requirements of other ports. We were able to handle ships which were coming for us. The ability of our ports to work consistently and continuously during the COVID period, I think, was a testament to the ability of the government as well as the private operators working very closely. From the government side, I think the customs did an excellent job. We actually operated facelessly, paperlessly for over 4 months, and customs really rose to the occasion. So I wherever I get a chance, I really wish to compliment them on saying that, whatever were the bottlenecks that we were encountering before in terms of transactions of electronically, they were streamlined, and we were consistent form. The real challenges we are facing now is the interconnectivity. Internet connectivity has challenge for a long period of time. The ability to connect by rail, not able to offer scheduled train services. This really bothers me is that India, being what it was in terms of rail transportation, for containers, we are not able to till today offer scheduled train services. And that I believe now with privatization coming in and with more competition coming in, with the dedicated freight corridor coming in, we should be able to get that consistency. And that is not difficult. Um, that just needs somebody to put their minds together and apply the same philosophy that they do to passenger traffic. And the speed by rail has increased. We the other aspect of connectivity is the inland waterways, where I think focus is there now, but lot needs to be done because I think the momentum is still not come on the inland waterways sector. There are myriad problems on the front of the Indo-Bangladesh Treaty or the management of the waterways in terms of the movement and the dredging, which I think has been a consistent problem for us. That needs to be in a focused way handled. And we need to build multiple small terminals closer to, rather than build mega terminals. I think we should get away from mega terminals and build small customized terminals at frequent distances and thereby adopt the same thing that is being done in Europe. And I think we can really harvest some of So I think there is a suboptimal transportation, the modal mix that needs to improve because now with the environmental awareness, you need to get as much moving by rail away from road and away from rail onto the waterways. And coastal shipping also needs to now come up in an active way. I think ports have sufficient capacity to develop coastal berths, offer non-congested and free of any problems. There is a lot of issues that arise in terms of how the cargo will move inside a port when it is coastal and the port is handling exempt traffic. Those are issues that can be very quickly tackled. I think we and almost all the ports along with, I think, DG Shipping, we have worked very actively on ensuring that, there is this whole port community system. I think we are getting the roadmap right. I was in Udyog Bhavan today and also met up with the special secretary. And I think everybody is on board that this needs to happen quickly. Everybody needs to be on the same page and I think develop this and get transparency and visibility of all the logistics that is happening around us. Technology is available to us. Technology is already there. We just need to sim it up. The lengthy inspection processes, the scrutiny process, I think the risk management system the government has implemented and is in the process of improving. I think it will bring a lot of, it will take away a lot of these problems of congestion. It will take care of the cargo movement and the cargo flow very, very quickly. Everybody is now, I think, on the infrastructure side, we are getting there. It's now becoming very standardized. On the ports, getting the number of berths, I think pre-berthing delays are off. Productivity is at global levels. The processes are also world class. I think there is no issue in terms of our processes when we compare with some of the other terminals. I think Europe and in Far East, in some of the terminals they're better than us, but on the global front, we rate fairly well. Lastly, I think this PPP model works. It benefits the country, and we should actively, ensure that it becomes more prevalent. The government is already putting in the bill and will open the road for much more freer competition and also open level playing for everybody. And there is a lot of unlocking of value to be done at the major ports. The manpower training, I think there is something where we lack in port management. Most of the people who have been in the port sector need to relearn and accept and adapt with technology. Redundant processes are still existing in many of the ports, and because of the legacy of holding on to multiple facets of land ownership, leases, port management in itself is a lot of work. So I think training of people, management through automation, and management by giving out in PPP, I think that is the way forward, and the government is not shy of taking such decisions, and therefore the larger good. I think with that, I'm happy to answer any questions right now, but I think there will be a call and I will be required to board in a few minutes, but I'm very happy to take any further calls, answer any questions. Anil, anything from anybody, please.
Okay, I'll leave it to Rituparna to tell us whether there were any specific questions. I have not seen any.
No, sir, we don't have any questions at the moment.
So, Sandeep, thank you. If you have to...
Thank you, and I will send in the list of issues that I think Rituparna can take up, and maybe everybody can add to that.
Sure, sir.
And then we can move ahead. Thank you so much. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you. Thanks.
So, may I now invite our next speaker, Ms. Poroma Munshi Rebello. Ms. Munshi Rebello is a shipping and logistics professional with experience in international ocean carriage, intermodal and multimodal transportation. She was a director on the board of Trident Terminals, which was a joint venture container freight station with the Concor Container Corporation of India. Therefore, her management experience is such that spans all the way from international shipping, ports, ICD, and CFS operations. She is currently the commercial director of a company, India Infrastructure and Logistics Private Limited, known as India Links. She is also the co-chairperson of the ASSOCHAM's National Council on Inland Waterways and is a member Shipping, Ports and Logistics Council of ASSOCHAM. Over to you, Poroma. You need to unmute yourself. Poroma.
Thanks, Anil. I never realized, didn't remember. Thank you, Anil, for the warm welcome and the wonderful introduction. First and foremost, I would like to thank DG Shipping for starting this discussion and being with us and sharing his views. Deeply appreciated. Thank you to Udyog Manthan and thank you to the Quality Council of India. It's very heartening to know that we are focusing on quality in our shipping, logistics, and intermodal sector. So there is a lot we can speak about, but among the topics which we were considering with the Quality Council of India was the brand image of India. What is brand India to our overseas colleagues and our overseas audience? Because while we are talking about shipping and the whole export and import trade, we can't forget the fact that our interaction is basically with an overseas audience. So what does India really look like to an overseas audience? I feel I have a slight qualification to speak on this, having spent well over 2 decades with one of the largest shipping companies. Now I am with a rail company. So what I understand, and I was always a commercial person other than now being in operations, etc. So my interaction with customers, overseas customers, has been lengthy and intense. And their choice of country for sourcing has basically to do with a very, very strong requirement which they have, which is of predictability. When there is a buyer, and we are also buyers, our country is also a buyer of various goods, but when a buyer of some high value product is sitting in an overseas country, he or she needs to know what exactly is going to happen when he opens a letter of credit and the cargo starts moving right from the vendor's factory. The impression, whether we like it or not, is that India is a very vast country and India's logistics sector, or let's say India's intermodal logistics and shipping sector, is largely unpredictable. And this unpredictability is something that while we all tend to live with it, I'd like to talk a little bit about what perception really is. What is perception? Perception is a reiteration of what actually happens more than once. So when it comes to planning of a supply chain or planning of inventory or planning of an assembly line somewhere overseas, what a customer or what somebody is looking for is that he or she should be able to say that my container will be excise sealed, factory sealed, custom sealed, moved on a train or moved by road, reach the port in such and such time, load on a vessel, and then it's the ocean. But this period from factory to ocean in our country has such a high level of unpredictability, and the reasons for that are various. There could be, for example, there are issues of floods, there are issues of agitations, there's fog, there's simply delay along the logistics route. So when we talk about Brand India, while overseas countries would very much like to start sourcing more and more from India for all good reasons, we still have not been able to instill in them a sense of comfort that they can depend on getting their container or their cargo when they expect to get it. Having said that, we have made enormous strides and improvement in this sector. I think out of the tragedy of the pandemic, something very important has emerged, and that India's ability to create a supply chain, a supply cold chain for the vaccine, which is now something which I think the United Nations, the World Health Organization, everybody is appreciating the way that our government has been able to send the vaccine across such a vast country and even overseas, for example. So I believe that this is going to kickstart a different kind of thinking where India's ability in the logistics sector is concerned. So taking from that, what can we do? What can we do here to create a sense of comfort or a stronger brand India for overseas markets, which will only help our exporters to gain more value in the international trade? So coming to quality, I think it is incumbent, and some of our earlier speakers, indeed, my father has always said, and I'm an armed forces daughter, so I tend to have that sense of discipline. Do the right thing the first time, every time. So if this can be a mantra which is inculcated in, as Captain Deepak Tiwari said, right from the exporter, the shipper and the importer level, this will go a long way in creating the very first link in the quality, in the supply chain of quality. Then next, what we can do, I believe, is try and create a certain amount of predictability in our operation. While there will be many things which we cannot control, I think there are also many things which are undone. For example, there are a lot of Indian companies overseas. It would perhaps be a reasonably good idea for them to be our brand ambassadors, to say, this is how I bring my goods from my country to yours. Whether it is having a government an outreach, some road shows, basically people overseas need to feel a sense of comfort that if I choose to source my export from India, what can I expect? Very often the sense is, and I'm using a very harsh term, which was used to me 20 years ago, that India's logistics sector is a black hole. We really don't know what is going to come out of it. Fortunately, much of that has changed. But the sum of it which remains, if we can start with training our own people, trying to ensure predictability in the handover sector between the two modes, from road to rail to ocean, inland waterways is a big opportunity. But if we can bring quality into the smallest link of our chain, and starting with training of, apart from the exporters themselves, even logistics vendors, vendors like us, suppliers, so on, if we can continuously have a quality improvement program in each of our companies, regardless big or small, quality is something which really even starts at the email level, where how you communicate with each other. What is protocol? What is courtesy? What is the way where somebody can expect a certain reaction from you? That itself creates a certain sense of comfort, because let's not forget, Brand India is something so much bigger than all of us. And I think we are the biggest brand ambassadors of Brand India, because we are the people who help. We are a small link supply chain where we help to reduce current account deficit, to earn foreign exchange for the country, to take our products overseas and give our markets a much broader and wider scope than they currently enjoy. So if we can just focus on quality right from the beginning, from the smallest link in the chain, and all of us as individuals, companies, vendors, service providers, I think Brand India will have a very different image, maybe even as far, as quickly within the next 1 or 2 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You were perfectly on time. Thank you. Quality starts there with you. So we've had Sandeep talking about ports, Captain Tiwari on container ships, Paroma has touched on the land side and quality on the land side services. We are now coming to the back to the ships, and I'm happy to introduce Mr. Indranath Bose. Mr. Bose is the advisor for Great Eastern Shipping Company Limited and is responsible for monitoring the performance of the entire fleet of Great Eastern. Between 2007 and 2014, he was the designated person and head of quality and safety department in the company. After joining Great Eastern, he was the vice president of statutory services in the Indian Register of Shipping. He is currently the chairman of the technical committee of the INSA, and he's also the vice chairman of the technical committee of IRS. He's also a member of the Indian technical committees of Bureau Veritas, Class NK, and DNP-GL. Mr. Bose, please share your thoughts with us.
Thank you, Mr. Devli, for the kind introduction. First of all, I would like to thank QCI for organizing this webinar and inviting me to speak. I couldn't agree more with Mr. Devli when he mentioned about Mr. Amitav Kumar, Director General of Shipping, for the way he has steered the industry during the difficult time of pandemic over the past 10, 11 months, be it survey and certification of vessels, crew change, competency examination, certification, etc. It has been, we are grateful to him. I am from the Great Eastern Shipping Company, the largest shipping company in the private sector in India. Our current fleet strength stands at 46 ships, consisting of oil tankers, bulk carriers, and gas carriers engaged in international and domestic trade. So we have to compete with our overseas shipping companies operating similar type of ships in international market. For us, quality of service means ability to meet and exceed our charterers' expectation in delivering cargo without any deterioration in its quality, in time, without any incident. For this to happen, a robust management system is in place, encompassing safety, quality, protection of environment, occupational health and safety, and maritime labor convention. I mean, we are certified to all the ISO 9001 and 14000 and OSHA standards, which are globally followed. We ensure the vessels we buy are of good technical standard and maintaining them to remain that way, or where required, even further improve it to ensure prevention of unplanned downtime. Actually, investing in ship reduces your cost of operation. So you benefit by spending more on your ship because you have less downtime. You get better charter hire with discerning charterers. Crew competency is critical in maintaining quality service. Hence, apart from ensuring that shipboard staff have the required statutory certificate of competencies, we ensure their continued skill enhancement through in-house training and training through external agencies. Technologies and regulatory requirements, especially related to environment protection, are continuously changing for international shipping, and hence it is critical to keep our shipboard and shore-based staff updated and keep revising our standard operating procedures. Apart from satisfying our charterers' expectation, there are several other parameters by which we judge our vessels for quality. Port State Control Record, which was mentioned by Mr. Amitav Kumar. Vessels on international trade are required to be in compliance with certain multilateral treaties. We call them conventions and codes of International Maritime Organization related to vessel safety, protection of marine environment, standards of training of shipboard staff, etc. Member states of IMO have the right to inspect foreign flag vessels visiting their respective ports to ensure that such vessels continue to comply with applicable international treaty requirements, just to ensure that the foreign flag vessel does not pose safety and environmental threat in their waters. In case of deficiencies being found, the vessels are required to rectify the same within certain time period. And in case of major deficiency being found, the vessels are detained until the deficiency is rectified. We judge our vessels from these reports. If it cleared the inspection without deficiency or with minimal deficiency, and in worst and rare cases of detention. These reports are important to us since discerning charterers view these reports while making their decision if they should charter a vessel. Hence, we monitor our vessels very, very closely to ensure continued compliance with international treaties. Here, we are talking about brand image. Here, we have much to improve because unfortunately, our ships are poorly rated in certain port set control regime like Paris and Tokyo MOU. And many of these poor performance or detention are because of some cases neglect, some cases of not being careless. And we have to pull up our socks as an industry to improve our performance in these two, in specifically Paris and Tokyo MOU. Not many of our ships visit US. The ships visiting US are of very high standards, and they're very unlikely situation of those vessels getting detained. In oil and gas trade, additionally, tankers and gas carriers are subjected to periodical vetting inspection, covering all aspects of vessels, including manning by oil companies, to ensure the vessels are safe for continued employment. Deficiencies found have to be rectified at the shortest possible time. Number of observations found in inspection is another parameter for judging our vessel quality. In bulk carrier trade, RightShip, it's a maritime safety risk management and environmental assessment organization formed by major dry bulk mining and transport companies. They assign safety risk score and GHG emission rating to individual ships based on vessels' operation, past performance records, and technical features. Vessels with inferior safety score and GHG emission rating are not chartered by discerning charterers. For safety score, we ensure vessels' records, for example, PSC inspection records, are maintained blemish-free. And for GHG emission rating, we in any case continuously upgrade our vessels by retrofitting energy-saving devices to ensure lesser emission. We have various internal key performance indicators to measure quality of our vessels, including that applies to manning. The productivity for us, in very simply put, is freight earned from a vessel in a given freight market situation. So that means no downtime, etc. Having given a broad overview of what quality means to us, I wish to highlight certain issues to improve quality of Indian flagged ships. There are three issues that I just want to put before this panel. Connecting imported spare parts to vessels while in India. when our vessel has come into the coast, most of the vessels are manufactured abroad with imported machinery. So they need imported spare parts. Getting these spare parts and clearing through customs is a very, very unpredictable and unreliable situation. So mostly we avoid getting spare parts into India, but sometimes it's unavoidable. And when we get it, it's a very, very tedious task. So just to give you an example, if we are importing certain engine spare, including rubber rings, custom requires list of content with number and weight. For example, a rubber ring, you have to put a weight. So these things, weights are not asked for in other custom clearances. So the paperwork preparation by the supplier takes about 2 weeks. And when it arrives here, we are not sure. In some cases, it just gets cleared in 24 hours. Some cases, they may ask questions and it may be there for 7 days, 10 days. And by then, the ship has sailed off from India. So, and that is not all. We have to give a declaration in bond paper saying that we will give evidence that the spare part has been consumed. Because if you do not submit that evidence signed by master of the vessel, the spare part has been consumed, the tax amount will be forfeited. In other parts of the world, custom clearance is fast and simple. Matter is closed by the master's signature of having received the spares. For example, a ship goes to Singapore, spare parts is connected. The master, after receiving on board, he signs off, he has received it, that is produced to the customs, and the story is closed. But here it goes on until it is consumed and master gives the declaration months after that having been supplied. So if some streamlining can be done here, it is likely that this provision has been misused sometime. That's why all these restrictions have been put. Nevertheless, certain ship owners, certain who are importing very regularly and have got certain credibility, at least it should be made easier for them. The second issue.
1 minute left, sir.
Yeah, I'll finish. Second issue is absence of world-class underwater hull cleaning facilities. Vessels hull get foul with bioorganisms like seaweeds, barnacle, etc., and they needs to be cleaned. In India, somehow we do not have good underwater hull cleaning companies. There are a few, but they have got very primitive cleaning tools. So we need to see that such underwater cleaning facilities are available in India. And until we have it, vessels on coast will continue to consume high fuel consumption because of fouled hull and higher CO2 emission. The last one is with respect to indigenous capability for development of zero carbon fuels to ships. Now the whole focus in IMO and the world over is shifting to zero carbon fuels. And various countries have put their strategy in place. For example, Australia is pursuing its national hydrogen strategy. Japan has formed its hydrogen association. China is developing hydrogen fuel ships, demonstration ship, a small ship. We need to have such collaborative effort. We need to have such collaborative work to ensure we are self-reliant in developing our own zero-carbon fuels for our land-based industry and in ships. If we do not do it, we shall remain dependent on other countries for our zero-carbon fuels. Perhaps it can be done under the aegis of Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, both, sir. I'm now going to request Mr. P.K. Mishra to speak. Mr. Mishra is a marine engineer by education, training, and qualification, and is an ex-Great Eastern marine engineer, having worked for Great Eastern. Following a sea career for about 8 years, 3 of which were as chief engineer, he joined the Indian Register of Shipping as an engineer surveyor, and has handled certification in head office Mumbai, and then was a member of the rule review team of IRS, which is a very important portfolio. He has about 15 years experience in establishing and running IRS offices overseas in the Far East, China, South Korea, Singapore, Europe, Turkey, and America, and recently in London. He is currently the Vice President and Head of Operations of Indian Register of Shipping. Over to you, Mr. Azhar.
Thank you, sir, for a very warm welcome and nice introduction. And good afternoon to DG Shipping, all speakers and colleagues, and all the ladies and gentlemen. First, let me say thank you to organizers, Udyog Manthan, for giving us the opportunity to speak on such important subjects such as Atmanirbhar Bharat and Atmanirbhar Shipping. As rightly spoken by our Honorable DG sir, in the beginning, he has highlighted the important milestones and weaknesses in the shipping industry. So what I'll be doing I'll be touching on all the aspects of shipping. And I'll be sharing basically my presentation. My presentation can be seen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So basically, we will look at it how we can make shipping Atmanirbhar. So for making shipping Atmanirbhar, what all will be the focus area? What are the challenges ahead of us? What could be the probable solutions? And what are the global practices? And as an Indian Register of Shipping, how we can contribute in making shipping, Indian shipping Atmanirbhar. So if you look at it, basically focus area, we need to have a strong maritime ecosystem, and we have to enhance our ship repair and shipbuilding capability. We have to basically develop manufacturing industry so that they can support shipping sector in terms of marine component and system, because currently majority of the equipment, they come from Europe. So we have to develop our manufacturing industry so that we can basically produce marine components and system here. We need to have high skilled workforce, and there has to be very financial and legal framework has to be adequate and has to support basically all these industries. If we look at the challenges faced, there are basically low labor productivity and complex labor laws. If we compare this, India's especially shipbuilding sector, this is quite significantly less than compared to leading shipbuilding countries such as Japan and Korea. Our workforce also are not very skilled. And there are very lack of ancillary industries, and there are basically insufficient technological development. We are basically having disadvantage because of poor infrastructure. There are less of innovation, and there are very less investment in research and development if we compare ourselves with the countries like Korea, Japan, and China. If we look at the challenges faced, basically our ship design companies, they are not having experience to design the complex vessels. Most of the designs gets licensed, and under licensing they work, and our basically technical cooperation is also limited with respect to foreign shipyards, and that's why there is not enough of technical know-how. Even like if you take country like Vietnam, they have also collaboration with Hyundai Vietnam Shipbuilding, and with the Daman also they have collaboration, Daman Song Shipyard. So our basically policy environment has to be enabling, and our automation level has to go up with respect to shipbuilding as well as ship repair. If we look at the probable solution, it requires incentivizing of entire shipping industry, all segments. We have to have basically joint ventures between established between Indian shipyard and established Japanese and Korean shipyard, so that our technology, so that there is adequate technology transfer, or engineering skills gets improved, and there is good production know-how. Even inside India, a small shipyard, they need to collaborate with big Indian shipyards. Even our current workforce skill have to be upgraded, and those who are coming out, fresh graduates, they need to be trained in such a way that they can be employed in the shipping sector. If we look at the global practices, especially major shipbuilding countries, they have formulated supportive policies, and they provide subsidy, financial aid, easy finance, tax benefits, and preferential orders. There are enough foreign investment which has also helped this building global competitiveness into these shipping companies. They support their ancillary industries by incentivizing, giving them R&D support and business-to-business network. And because of all this support to ancillary industries, you will find that those countries, when they make ship, their indigenous content of equipments are very high. Little bit I'll just cover about what we can do as the Indian Register of Shipping for making shipping as Atmanirbhar. We are basically IAX member society, and we are recognized organization for Indian administration, Government of India, and we have recognition from 44 more flags, and those includes European flags such as Denmark, Netherlands, Malta, Cyprus, Bulgaria, etc. And we have recognized by US also. Lloyd list, if you look at it, we are top 10, and we have 1,000 plus qualified engineers and more than 4 decades of experience. We have global presence, so that as of now also a lot of marine components come from overseas, and even to operate ships and to attend ships outside India, and when they are trading globally, to attend those offices, we have outside India 27 offices, which you can see in the exhibits, and we have in India also around 27 offices. Our technical core or strength is basically we do ship construction, we basically do ship classification, and we are into research and innovation, and we are doing industrial inspection, port related inspection, we are into management system certification, and we are basically upgrading the technical skill also through SAMS. We have testing laboratories, and we are into product certification. If you look at it, shipping, our services cover from cradle to grave. We have basically our rules covering all sector of shipping, and all the ship they constructed, their designs are based on our rules, and their construction happens based on our rules. We get into the component inspection for the ship, for the component to go on ship, and we do certification during ships operating life also. And we issue certificate for ship recycling on behalf of various governments. If you look at it, basically number of ships class with us, it is total 1764 ships, we have close to 12.7 million GT, and majority of those are tanker around 47%, and bulk carrier are about 21%, and gas carriers are 7%, containers are 4%, and all others are 20%. So basically we have know-how of all type of ships and even specialized ships. If you look at it, rules, basically we have marine rules, and in marine rules, that is for full sea going, for coastal shipping, for near coast shipping, for inland waterways. We have offshore rules with respect to MODU, SPM, and fixed offshore structure. We have naval rules for Navy, and then Indian Coast Guard rules, and we have various classification notes and guidelines. For defense also, earlier like ABS was doing most of the defense vessel, but now we are doing majority of the defense vessels. So we have developed naval and coast guard rules. We get involved into design review, inspection, and certification of the coastal security vessels. We do basically see the repair of defense vessels, and we are undertaking various R&D activities for defense projects. And we are basically strengthening national defense and security. For Government of India, we are
1 minute.
Yes, sir. For Government of, I'll take couple of minutes more. For Government of India, we are basically to Home Ministry, we are providing services of border management, for Police Modernization Division. We look at their technical specification and basically we look at their technical specification and coastal security vessels. We look at their technical bids and they maintain our class also. Other than Border Security Force, for NDRF, we prepare their technical specification and we are providing classification services for NDRF boats also. For inland waterways also, we have made new inland vessel bill and new inland vessel rules, and we are providing specification and classification services for Inland Water Authority of India also. Offshore also, we are into new construction. We survey MODU, diving support vessel, well stimulation vessel. We are into conversion of specialized types of offshore vessels. We monitor critical repairs and refurbishment of MODU and MOPU. And we are into certification of single point mooring, offshore petrol platforms, jackets and topsides and submarine pipelines. Port related services also, we cover various services right from review of disaster management plan, condition assessment of port assets. We look into oil spill contingency plan and basically survey and certification of crane and material handling equipment. We are certified various recycling yards for Hong Kong Convention and EU ship recycling. Our industry division, which is our basically in our umbrella company, they also for enhancing quality and productivity, they provide various services. That is for risk assessment also, audit training and risk assessment, for condition assessment, for imminent life assessment, for fit for service analysis, material testing, calibration and failure analysis is being carried out by our GML, and periodic and statutory inspection is being carried out by SFS. And we do project management also. Our Indian Register Quality System, we have certified more than 4,000 clients across the globe, and we can help all ancillary industries with our knowledge of global firms to improve their know-how and to improve their quality. We have sales like...
Mr. Sir, can I intervene? Sorry, first of all, I think you're well beyond time. And I think what is important is for us, not now, but we'll continue with the other speakers. But when you come back, what we'd like to understand is the role that IRS can play in terms of increasing productivity, quality, etc. What IRS is doing, I think, is by and large known to all of us in the field. So I think I will pause you here right now because we have to be fair to the other speakers who are coming after you. There are 3 people who have to speak. So when I come back, I'd like you to speak about what is it, and in fact, one question also has been asked that what is the role that you can play in productivity improvement or quality. Having said that, I will now move on to Mr. Sanjay Tiwari. Sanjay is somebody who has worked in the transportation and logistics industry across North Europe, Southeast Asia, United States, and India. He has close to more than 25 leadership experience in trading, distribution, transportation, financial services, and education. As you can see, it's a varied field. He is the founder of and CEO of 21cc Education, which is a highly innovative education tech company which operates 2cc skilling and job placement app. You can go to their website and take a look at it. They have created e-learning apps and modules for logistics, healthcare, hospitality, and they have offices in the Netherlands. So over.
Slides to present focused on this topic of logistics and shipping, which is of course all very, very close to our hearts. So thank you for organizing this. And Mr. Kumar, indeed, thank you very much for everything that you and the department did over the last year. What are the basic forms of non-quality in shipping and logistics? Those of us from the industry obviously know them, but what is it, for say people outside?
Sanjay, we are not able to hear you. video if you so wish. Thank you.
Sure. With my show of my video.
Yeah, it's okay. Mr. Tiwari, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So what are the basic, what does non-quality mean in our industry? Either delayed delivery, damaged delivery, incomplete delivery, whether it's containers or pallets, skids, wrong delivery, you're sending something to the wrong person altogether, or you don't deliver. And Mrs. Rubello spoke about it. I think Captain Tiwari also addressed it very eloquently. These are things which impact a company's bottom line, they impact an industry's bottom line. So there's an impact on the bottom line because you have to do the same task twice. And logistics, we all know this, is such a lean business that the moment you have to do something twice, you're already losing money. Anybody from Swiggy or Zomato or MSC or Maersk who has to deliver a container twice or deliver a pallet twice, you are already losing money. If you go to Starbucks and you order a cup of coffee and you don't like it, the lady says, shall I throw it away and make a new one? Why? Because they're charging you 300 rupees for a cup of coffee and the margins are so insane, they can afford to throw it. In our business, we cannot afford to do something twice. You have to get it right the first time. So there's an impact on the bottom line. There's an impact on the top line, reduced revenue. You may not get a follow-up order. There's an impact on reputation. I think Mrs. Rubello spoke about that very well. And I have worked in the steel industry at the start of my career. There is actually a discount used to be 25 years ago, for steel shipments from India because they weren't sure whether the goods would arrive on time. Quality of the steel is the exact same, but the logistics actually led to a lower cost of goods versus, say, something coming from Japan where they knew it would be there on the dot. So logistics actually has an impact positively, if you do it well, on the price that you get and therefore the revenue that you generate. And it can, in an extreme case, lead to a permanent loss of revenue, right? Where the client says, sorry, I don't wish to do business with you anymore. So what are some of the main solutions for driving quality and productivity? Obviously, automation comes to mind, improved processes, process management, Six Sigma, etc. Infrastructure, what the government is doing in terms of building ports, building roads to ports, setting up SEZs, all of those things help tremendously. And logistics in India is seeing unprecedented investment. Legislation, we've just seen so many of the bills going into being tabled in Parliament and really upending the way the shipping industry is being legislated. Treaties between different countries, aiding in business. But I would like to focus on people because obviously that's the focus of what my company does. But it's something that's very dear to my heart. And DG, Mr. Kumar, you spoke about that as well, about the importance of training. So what is it that people need to be trained upon in our business? What is it that they really need to know? One, how to complete a process. We are a very process, or ought to be a very process-centric industry, although Captain Tiwari rightfully said that very often we tend to, to friends and family, but Indian logistics is professionalizing also with so many homegrown companies such as All Cargo and Adani Logistics. How to complete a process, when to complete a process, how fast and at what cost. I mean, if you spend enough money, you can make every process perfect, but as an industry, we don't have that amount of money to spend, and the client is also not willing to spend. We are under constant pressure. So how fast you do something and at what cost also influences the overall productivity. And Captain Mehta was talking about the turnaround time at Indian ports, which I think is a very important point. And finally, I would like to add, super important thing to train people on is why the process matters. What is the importance of that process in the grand scheme of things? Why does that delivery matter? Why does that quality control matter? Why does that count of those exact articles matter? And finally, you want to train people on what prospects this industry offers. Why do we want to get people into our business? So in my opinion, these are central things that we need to train people on in order to improve the quality in our industry. And therefore, through what we do as a company, we try to train people and make them aware of what this industry even offers. What do individual companies offer? What do jobs require? And what are your prospects in a job? We have to realize that as logistics, as shipping, we have for years been the silent engine behind the country. We are logistics people traditionally tend to be very humble. We like to talk in industry associations. We don't go out and publicize the industry. And I think 2020 has been a breakout year for shipping and logistics, where the country as a whole realizes that it's a logistics industry that has kept us clothed and fed and is now getting medicines to people. So people need to be made aware of this. In a post-pandemic world, people need to be aware of or need to have solutions that are context sensitive. So you need to train people in a language, regional language, so that language is not a barrier. That content that is sensitive to their industry. Content should be accessible, and I respect that the DG Shipping, your department, has done a lot, even to allow seafarers to gain access to content while they're on a vessel. I mean, how on earth is somebody who's on a vessel supposed to come ashore and then sit, for 2 months for a course and exam? So that's the ideal audience for digital learning, e-learning, etc. But that holds true for people across India. I know the IWAI came out with a tender or an EOI a few months ago, wanting to digitize a lot of their training. So that's the kind of thing we would love to see a lot more of. And content should be adaptable. It should be possible to make change dynamically, because we as an industry are so dynamic. You can't say this syllabus was written 5 years ago and we'll wait till the publisher updates it. It has to happen dynamically every couple of months. And the last one is scalable. I think Mr. Kumar, you referred to that as well, but we need to be able to reach thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in order to get them into our industry and skilled and trained. Right. And Industry 4.0, I said this in a quote the other day, but whatever we call the future, call it Industry 4.0 or call it something else, we all thought, it's going to come to us someday. Thanks to the pandemic, Industry 4.0 is here right now. Everybody's busy reinventing their industry, and therefore we have to get our people ready for that as well. And what's in it for us as an industry? Faster onboarding of people leads to higher productivity. So the theme of this webinar is productivity. The faster we can onboard people, the faster, very simply put, they start making money for us. We don't need to be ashamed to say that. The less mistakes they make, the less returns we have, the less fewer claims we have, and therefore the higher the customer satisfaction. Fewer accidents. People should be able to work in the shipping industry, in the logistics industry, knowing that they will be safe and their life and limb will be spared. This leads to higher employee satisfaction, higher retention. They will go home and tell their friends and cousins about us as an industry and hopefully come into the industry. They should be multi-skilled. We no longer have people who are in one silo and saying, you're only doing inbound and you will never do outbound. No, people move around in a warehouse or at a container terminal all the time. And the more multi-skilled people are, the better. And as a company, we did a project for the Port of Amsterdam to help them digitize their training materials so that they could move people from one part of the terminal to the other quite dynamically. So my final slide, Anil and ladies and gentlemen, is, we know we live in extraordinary times, right? And why is skilling important now? A lot of old industries are going to disappear. New ones will emerge. We obviously, as a shipping industry, as a logistics industry, want to be part of the new world and believe that we will be. There are new markets opening up. So there are markets that we will have to serve that we have never served before. There is unprecedented change in the employment landscape. Some people will come into this industry. Some people will leave. And therefore, reskilling and upskilling is required on a massive scale, on a scale that most countries have not contemplated. But I believe firmly that the way the government of India has been thinking about skilling and reskilling is exactly the way it ought to be done. This is one of the most interesting countries in which to have this discussion. And I think actually India is ahead in this domain compared to even many countries in the West. So that's the end of my presentation. And thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Sanjay, for being perfectly on time. Grateful for that consideration. I now move on to another wonderful speaker. I'm happy to introduce to you Suniti Bala. Suniti has the distinction of being the first lady sailing Chief Engineer of India, first lady marine surveyor and auditor of India. She was a quality manager for more than about 18 years. with leading the team there. She's been a marine field surveyor, an auditor, and a trainer for field survey in Classification Society. She was part of Indian Register of Shipping and in the role of onboard management team as a chief engineer, second engineer. Currently, Suniti works as quality manager, marine and manager operations with Maersk Line. While she works for Maersk today, the views that she's going to give us are her personal views and are not the views of her employer. Suniti, please go ahead. You need to unmute yourself, Suniti.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity for sharing my thoughts. Being almost last speaker can be really tricky, where I might be left with very little to speak about, as mostly gets covered by others. However, this can be also opportunity at the same time to cover all which is not yet covered. Let me touch upon the basics of quality. What is quality? ISO has its own definition, and many definitions can be found based on objectives. I will offer a simple explanation to quality. Quality is deriving excellence in 5M, which are man, machinery, material, method, and management in a given environment. In shipping, when compared to land-based industrial unit, due to its highly dynamic environment, the very nature of trade and high variables in work environment, and determining role of human element, establishing safety as paramount, the challenges to achieve quality are very high. Due to the same reason, ISM code from IMO became mandatory as a compliance for all ships. So in a nutshell, if we are able to control or monitor these elements, we will be able to control the final characteristics of product, let it be material, process, or services. For every stakeholder and the related processes, if we are able to control these elements of man, material, machine, methods with the environment, we will definitely have the desired results. There are many stakeholders, and I cannot touch upon all of them and the relevant point in this very short duration. But for the sake of simplicity and discussion, I will touch upon my observations related with vessels, vessel management, let it be management company or shipowning company, and regulatory body, sharing some differences I have observed between Indian and international shipping. Let's talk about vessel first as a stakeholder. They face many challenges like all time changing regulatory requirements, keeping pace with technology, maintain and run vessel with available or very limited resources, comply and satisfy all, like shore officers, cargo owners, port authorities, etc. And this is relevant to all ships, I mean national and international. Where, as India, we have difference from internationally benchmark shipping companies. I will give some general pointers. Taking from my personal experience in various profile I have served, onboard environment on Indian fleet relatively lacks in housekeeping and maintenance. In general, I've noticed that objective of maintenance is lost in paper exercise. We see some of the leading or benchmark companies, they invest in not only planned but also predictive maintenance tools. Whereas we, with all intentions of planned maintenance, mostly ends up with breakdown maintenance. Old age of our fleet can be one reason. This, I talked about the machinery element. Talking about another M of man, we lack in preparation and training. It's rightly said by Mr. Sanjay Tiwari that people is really important here, and the training is further important. So we lack in training, especially on-job training. With foreign shipping mostly shifting to electronic engines, a good number of colleges we have are still teaching the student obsolete engines or training equipments procured from scrap vessel. Learning those equipment is not wrong. They should know about it. It's just that they're not used anymore. With required thrust and importance of training, on-job training is not extended. on-job training of subordinates are not yet emphasized, with seniors deck or engine officers, and in most of the companies, the training of subordinate is not included in job responsibility, or it's neither connected to the performance of senior officers on board. Another aspect of people found with us is biases and lack of professionalism. For the lack of professionalism, the very good example which we have seen, like death of the same grandmother in several cases and pushing sign of basis that. Then there is a my contract approach with seafarers and psychologically misfit to highly demanding environment. The teacher to student ratio is quite high. So many points to consider under this section. However, with the time limitation, let me move on. When we talk about biases, there are many, like regional biases, operational biases within the vessel, between deck and engine. There is gender bias. I'm so glad to see Ms. Purnama here, and which is very rare when we talk about any shipping discussion. I'm not touching element material here because we all know that shipping is usually have to comply with various standards. So there is not much of problem area. Method for vessel is usually coming from shore office, so I will talk a little later. So what can be possible solutions here? For maintenance, this all comes with a cost, and this has been a biggest challenge. However, when we talk about housekeeping in general, it needs mindset change, which has been usually spoiler from our own culture. Thus, we can have emphasis on housekeeping and cleaning. Maybe we can make it part of curriculum and training from the day one. This is not just to enforce the housekeeping, but also to have it inculcate in within ourselves. I mean, we are talking about the trainings here. When I was young, I used to select the wristwatch by the look of dial, and many of us still do that. It's natural. Same happens when we induct human resources or we hire for the vessel. A very useful tool which I've noticed for ensuring quality of man used in foreign shipping is psychological mapping, predictive index cognitive assessment, which may not only highlight IQ or EQ suitability for the job, but also any underlying mental health condition, which with today's day, it has become quite important. Moving on to next stakeholder, vessel managers. Though there are many good points which have been covered by Mr. Ironbose, I will try to highlight from different angle. Again, mostly about element man and method. For man, leadership is something where we lack. We have very good managers, and with few exceptions, we lack in leadership. I'm not taking any names here, but most of the company even lacks in successor planning and then ends up in a totally unexpected situation, which may not be very conducive. Transparency is something which is nowhere to be found in organizational culture, and usually people are threatened and insecure with each other. A lot of good amount of time and energy is lost there. Sometimes or many times, whatever is written in books precedes the common sense without acknowledging the fact that there is a possibility of model being just copy paste. We should take utmost caution in finding the facts that during the course of delivery, the process is not becoming objective, and process should always remain as a tool to achieve the objective. Quoting on old non-relevant rules used with different bias actually kills the creativity and enthusiasm. However, this statement under no circumstances means that we should not adhere to rules and procedures. I just mean that if these are getting irrelevant, then we should take a pause, change the process, and then stick to the new process until we find that it's misfit to the changing environment. That's a whole understanding of continual improvement. This may look simple, but needs a lot of self-motivation and conducive environment to grow. Lack of such system leads to process bottleneck, an unconvinced human element performing the job, leading to poor quality. For learning and development, we will fill. Am I still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can hear you, but you have 1 minute left.
Oh, okay. I go then. Quite. Let me finish. Yeah. For learning and development, we try to fill up the root cause analysis of incident or defect instead of actually executing it. Our learning approach towards failures and mistakes needs to be established. A biggest difference which I've seen between us and them is when someone brings up the mistake, they actually thank you for that instead of blaming. And if we see here, we end up actually in blaming. Management approachable and no blame policy with sense of accountability should be one way and established, where approach should be system based rather than person based. Motivation techniques should be inculcated in management by top management when genuine issues and concerns are raised. This is small but very important change which I have noticed in two different environments where I have worked. For quality purpose, and this is quite important, which I have seen a lot in Indian culture. For quality purpose, we establish a process to achieve some meant objective, and we end up making our process as objective rather than having process change to achieve the required objective. Dynamic and changing environment demand change of process to suit the requirement. My last topic is regulatory. Not much. When we talk about regulators, then first thing which comes in mind is rules and procedures and a lot of it. And possible effort on harmonization of those and establishing interface in one way to proceed towards excellence. Although in last couple of years, there are humongous development and there is effort from the DG Shipping. I mean, thanks to DG Shipping for that. My only point here that we need simplicity of rules and procedures on a convenient, approachable platform to reach the mass. Lastly, I want to conclude with diversity and women participation. I witnessed a clear difference between Indian and international scenario. All of us must have noticed that in general, men are in their best behavior in presence of women rather than enthusiastic, and it's very natural. Needless to say, this will definitely lead to some positive impact in exact deliverable and it will add to excellence. All this is based on the fact that men or women employed are fit and competent for the job. So diversity supports a conducive environment for excellence and thus contributes to one important element of quality. Will not take much time of yours. So these are never-ending elements, and many thanks for giving me the platform to share my thoughts. And thanks to all audience for patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Suniti. So having completed with this galaxy of speakers, I'm going to come back to you, DG sir. But before that, I need to take an opportunity to also put up a few words on behalf of the Indian industry. And despite all the efforts that are being made, as DG sir pointed out, today our fleet is not the healthiest in the world. Whereas the amount of cargo that we have is terribly healthy. And some of the issues that impact the productivity and competitiveness of Indian shipping need to be paid attention to. The competitive side is being attended to by the policymakers, including the DG, the Ministry of Shipping, and the Finance Ministry. But I'm going to touch on a few issues that impact us in terms of productivity. And a few examples of where Indian ships suffer because of productivity problems. Most of you may be aware that when our ships are on a foreign going run and they come into India, they also carry cargo on the coast. Such vessels are required to convert under the customs regulations from foreign going status to coastal status. We find that while at, and I'm not going to name ports here, but on one particular port in India, our vessels get converted in not more than 24 to 36 hours. And there are at least three ports where our vessels are made to wait for anywhere.
Well, you are suddenly not audible.
Sir, I'll put off my video. Is it better now? I've put off my video.
Yeah. Mr. Devli, we can hear you. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. So a vessel which needs to convert from foreign to coastal at one port in India, the customs takes about 24 to 36 hours, and at other ports they take anywhere between 3 to 5 days. When I was preparing for this webinar, I understand that one particular ship on the west coast of India has taken 9 days to be given out of charge. So for 9 days, a vessel at $20,000 per day has been standing around not being able to do anything. Now, imagine the amount of loss of productivity that the vessel is facing due to these kind of situations, and the loss of money, the loss that the cargo owner also faces and the ship owner faces. I will get on to the to another thing. Somebody's microphone is on. If you can kindly please blank it out. Thank you. Let us take similar, and the similar is the case when we have to put out of charge to export a vessel. So same problems happen. Mr. Bose touched on the issue about spare parts. I will go to one more facet of the spare parts. There are coastal vessels which have spare parts and which have to be connected onto a ship. And though these are coastal vessels and though the spare parts are for coastal consumption, we are forced to file a shipping bill. Now, because without a shipping bill, you need not go through the entire process of working through the so-called channel. Now, in order to file a shipping bill, you have to create an invoice, and now because you have to create an invoice, you have to pay GST on that invoice, and then you have to go through the whole processing. And again, matters like this take 2 days, sometimes 3 days. Even food and victualling meant for on coastal vessels is required to go through these kind of inane processes. Suffice to say that differing processes of customs at different ports in India cause huge amount of uncertainty and rent seeking, because if I have come to one particular port, and now a premier port in India is a port that I will say here in the forum, we all avoid. We avoid coming to this port because we know that we will face problems at this port. A huge loss of productivity, time and money. I will then move on to issues that we have with the RBI. Now, some of you may be aware that if I want to buy a flat and I decide that, I will buy a flat, but I will take a loan from State Bank of India, I could tomorrow, let us say Sanjay is selling me a flat. I could tell Sanjay that I will pay you 100 rupees for the flat. And then when I get my loan from State Bank of India, you give me back that 90 rupees or 10 rupees back, because 90 rupees is the loan, or the 90 rupees, whatever is the loan portion. Now, this is something that we all do. But it may surprise you to know that if I have a ship available in which, because we are legally allowed to keep money outside India, if I find a vessel outside India that I need to buy, I am not allowed to pay for that ship with my own funds. Because if I pay for that ship with my own funds, I am not allowed to take an ECB loan to reimburse those funds. And strangely enough, we have spoken to RBI several times about this, but RBI simply refuses to agree to permit us to use foreign funds for replacing dollar funds. I am not even saying rupee funds, even for dollar funds. Let me take you on to something of late that our offshore vessels have started facing, in which our DG has immediately acted and spoken to DG Hydrocarbons. It may surprise you to note, ladies and gentlemen, that if today an offshore vessel has to be employed by ONGC, Keynes, BG, Reliance, anybody in the EEZ, such a vessel can only be employed 35 days after the Ministry of Defense gives you permission. Now ask me why 35 days? Nobody knows. But if the 1st of January, if I'm given permission to employ a vessel, it means that I can only employ that vessel on the 5th of the next month. So I have to wait for 35 days, and 35 days the vessel can do nothing at all. And when we ask, we are not even given reasons. Huge loss of productivity. I'll come to another example which is faced by our tugs businesses. A lot of our tug companies are awarded contracts in neighboring countries such as Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Oman, Bangladesh, etc. But when these tugs get the job, and they get the job order, they are required to sail out immediately and report for the business. Now, when they have to sail out, they are required to take what is called a GR waiver from the RBI. This GR waiver, ladies and gentlemen, takes anywhere between 12 to 15 days for a shipping company to get. And what is this? This is only a document which says that Anil Devli undertakes that when I take my ship to Sri Lanka, I will ensure that I will bring my ship back. For this, 15 days time is lost because of all of these issues. So these are the kind of processes and hurdles that Indian shipping faces, which causes great amount of loss of productivity. Come back to the offshore sector. Earlier days, the seafarer used to be issued a pass in the offshore sector, which was in his own name. Now they say that they will issue a pass which has to be related to the ship. And therefore, if a seafarer is moved from one boat to another offshore boat, then you have to go back and carry out a complete new pass for the seafarer. Again, this whole process takes anywhere between 15 to 20 days to be able to get a pass. And therefore, I have to keep all these people on my roll, not be able to use them and spend a great bit of money. I can, as somebody else said, one can go on and I can fill 3 hours cribbing and crying about what is happening. But I thought it's important to place here, since we have DPIIT who is hosting this webinar for us, it is important for the DPIIT who has taken great steps to try and create this whole story of our being able to be self-reliant, that we will never be able to attract investment in Indian shipping as long as we continue to have these kind of difficulties that impact productivity and loss of revenue. And these matters need to be looked at quickly, and answers need to be found as soon as possible. I'm not going to take up too much of my time allotted to me. In fact, less of the time allotted to me. I will move on to the participants. I'm sure there are some questions that have been put up, and I will pass it to Ms. Rituparna Mukherjee to identify the questions and direct it to the panelists so that they can answer the questions asked by the participants. Over to you, Ms. Mukherjee.
Thank you, sir. So there's one question. It's written, IRS has 1,000+ engineers. How many are working in the areas of productivity improvement of services provided by IRS? And the question has been asked by Mr. Narayan Rao. So if anybody would like to answer that question.
I think Mr. Praveen Mishra, PK Mishra ji, you can probably answer that.
Yes, see, basically for every aspect, there are quality and productivity is there. If you look at shipbuilding and ship repair industry, so they're all basically quality management system that's are based on recommendation 47 of IX, and that gets checked, when ship is being built or repaired. That productive, but however, we cannot comment on productivity. But definitely quality we always check, whether it is shipbuilding, whether it is ship repair, or even ancillary industry, where we are doing certification. Quality aspect gets checked, but yes, productivity we cannot comment much. Thank you.
All right, sir. There are no other questions, but if any...
I can also, I will acknowledge, somebody with the prefix VIRL has also made a mention about the problems that they have to pay through the PCS system. And it seems the private foreign banks are not allowed to settle port dues through the PCS system. And therefore, it requires our shippers and perhaps our exporters to have multiple bank accounts. Whoever you are, Mr. VIRL or Miss VIRL, I suggest you should make a note about this and send it off even directly to the DPIIT. If you feel that as INSA we can help you, you can send me a note and I'm happy to include it, because one of the important things that is going to be done post all of this is that whatever hurdles we face, a compendium would be prepared by DPIIT in respect of hurdles and proposed solutions. So while you give us the problem, please also propose a solution along with the problem, because we will not know what is the best solution. So therefore, this is something that you and others who are listening in may also kindly do this. If anybody else has any questions, yes, Ms. Mukherjee, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do not have any more questions here. So, sir, with your permission, can I conclude this session?
Yeah. Is DG Sab there, or has he left?
I think, sir, he has left. He had some issue with the connectivity, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
So I also request you to please switch on your camera because your connection seems to be fine.
Okay, right.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anil, sir, for steering the deliberations so well and putting up your points as well in the end. I would also like to extend our gratitude to Mr. Amitabh Kumar for gracing this event with his presence and setting up the tone and the context for the session. I would also like to thank our illustrious speakers for deliberating on the issues of quality and productivity in this industry. And I request all the experts present here to spare some time and provide recommendations and suggestions, as this would help us in creating a compendium of quality-related sectoral recommendations, which will be shared later with the concerned ministry and the departments. Furthermore, I would also like to thank all the attendees for being such a fantastic audience. Here I conclude the session. Goodbye and have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
We must thank Mr. Alok Jain also for all
thank you very much, Mr.
that he has shown with us and helping you and Ms. Mukherjee. So thank you very much for your consideration and your assistance.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Jain.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tuparna. Thanks, Anil.
Thank you, Ms. Paroma.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Tiwari Sahab, thank you. Mishra Sahab,
Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Suniti. Really nice hearing you.
Nice meeting you, Promoma.
Yes,
Yes, we'll connect. We will connect. Paroma.
Yes.
My name is
Paroma, yeah.
We'll connect.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
No. It's a pleasure. We'll connect.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.